Good morning, I'm Wendy Burke, and this is the CBC Morning Report for Wednesday, October 6. In our top story, the days of having to deal with as many as 28 government departments to import or export products could soon be at an end. Barbados has inked a multi-million-dollar deal with the United Nations 15th Conference on Trade and Development to implement and operationalize an electronic single window. This will effectively bring the 28 departments into a single electronic space, thereby streamlining operations, reducing clearance times, and cutting costs. Minister of Energy, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Carrie Simmons, says while there are some legal and technological requirements to be put in place, the agreement is a momentous opportunity for Barbados.
Effectively, what we're now doing is having one platform, which will be a seamless place, one stop for the business person, whether micro, medium, or large. That one stop allows for all of those government departments to interface with each other online in real time, as opposed to the way in which we did everything else, which was have a set of forms that you had to fill out, and then you truck those forms to another government department, and you go through that exercise with that government department again, and you truck them somewhere else, and you go through the same exercise. And the questionnaires sometimes are almost identical to the ones you had before, but you had to give everybody a fresh set of questionnaires to be filled out, and it goes on and nauseatingly on.
UNCTAD has been selected as the contractor to implement the electronic single window. The project has a time frame of 30 months, and the unit is to be functioning by November 1st this year to ensure all targets are achieved. UNCTAD Secretary General Rebecca Greenspan says the single window is a module of the Asakuda platform, which UNCTAD has helped Barbados with in the past.
In Asakuda, we use open source platforms. We give the product to the government, and you will be able to grow on it because we will train the people in the public sector. This project will stay here in Barbados. It's not ours, it's yours. So thank you so much for your confidence in our capacity to do this. Believe me, we will take this with the seriousness that it deserves to help Barbados like we have helped other countries.
Meanwhile, United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, says vaccine nationalism needs to end. She says it's a form of inequality as larger countries have been able to acquire and administer more doses than smaller territories.
It is a disgrace that high-income countries administer 61 times more doses per inhabitant than low-income countries, according to WHO. But we also know that universal and equitable access to COVID-19 vaccine remains one of the strongest determinants of countries' ability to control the pandemic, stop human suffering, but also be able to move towards a sustainable recovery of the economy.
Participants in the ongoing UNCTAD 15 are being called upon to establish a global services community which would assist with the post-pandemic recovery. It came out of a global services forum that preceded UNCTAD. To discuss what's needed to transform the services sector is Alison Francis of Caribbean Export Development Agency, a co-organizer of that conference. Good morning and welcome to you, Alison.
Good morning, and thank you for having me today.
Okay. What were the main areas identified for development within the services sector?
For one, we've noted that there's a lack of data for the services sector. And so we realized that we need to bring together a platform, together with UNCTAD, part of the Global Services Forum, to have a platform to allow for us to collect the data so we can be more informed in terms of our decisions that we make, as well as to be more targeted, understanding the needs of the sector. We also do recognize the importance of digitization, innovation, and technology.
Okay, and how will the present UNCTAD conference help you in being able to move forward that agenda, especially in the area of digitalization?
Well, the UNCTAD conference for us as a participant here at Caribbean Export, what we have done, and thanks to the organizers in terms of how they set it up, that we have a booth, and so that it's not where Caribbean Expo then represents the region as a regional private sector body. We have a booth, and therefore we can showcase the region. One of the areas that we have highlighted on that booth in the platform is that of a services registry. So we have the first registry of services providers within the region. So from there on, you have an idea, once we have the persons registered, of who are the actors within the sector, and so that we can be more targeted in our interventions. On the issue of digitization, we have had many discussions with all the different bodies, and so we understand what it is, have a better understanding, I would say, of the actions that we need to take to go forward. What is very important as well is that services, we speak it, and we need to just underscore the fact of the importance of services to the economy. It's not as a sector of its own, but a cross-cutting linkages between sector and overall development of any country. For a manufacturing firm, there's a large percentage of that is services, whether it is your marketing, your research and development, your distribution, it is part of a service. So services becomes very important, and we highlighted that in the case of the pandemic, the importance of service, the digitization and distribution, and what can be done, and how we can trade and increase your trade in services.
How long are you expecting this register to be completed in terms of a time frame? What have you set for the individuals in the region to register?
Well, we had launched the registry before. We have over 300 plus persons registered regionally. We do not have a time frame to close off, because we hope that it will be continue open, and as new firms come up, they'll constantly register. The important part of the registry is just not only knowing who you are, but it's also linked to our B2B portal from Caribbean Export, which will be launched by the end of this month, early November. So it's not just about knowing who you are, but also get you that business connection.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for joining us here, Alison Francis of CEDA, and do enjoy the balance of your morning.
Thank you. You too, and stay safe.
Thank you. Next on CBC's Morning Report, updates on the COVID-19 pandemic. Barbados has a new record in its daily number of COVID-19 cases, 318. This number comes from 2,786 tests conducted on Monday at the Vestal Santos Public Health Lab. The number of males and females was even, 159, with 69 being under the age of 18. 926 people are now in isolation. Guyana has developed new vaccination cards as part of efforts to curb the ongoing forgery of the COVID-19 Blue Books. Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, says the new vaccine cards come as police probe more cases of forgery.
Very soon, we are going to introduce a different type of card that's going to be harder to forge, and if people did not have the proper documentation in the first place, then they're not going to get the new card that we'll be putting in. We have probably about 12 to 15 cases right now that the police is looking at, and I hope that they can speedily conclude those investigations and that the persons would be charged. Because, you know, this is a very dangerous thing in the sense that if you're facilitating somebody to get the card, but they didn't get the vaccine, then when they get sick we'll probably think that they have been immunized and we are getting a breakthrough infection when in the first place they did not get the vaccine at all. So we have to put an end to this practice, and I want to urge those healthcare workers who have been involved in this to desist, because when we catch you, you are going to face the full force of the law.
It's time now for a preview of what's coming up on Morning Barbados. And for that, we say good morning to Pearson Bartholomew Buin.
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Wendy Bartholomew. I'll say good morning to Wendy Beryl Burke. What a beautiful name, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I'll accept it this morning.
Good. Thank you, Bartholomew. All right. When you join me here at 6:30 right here on Morning Barbados today, we'll be taking a look at reparations. That's right, because My Trident is Broken, a slogan seeking to sensitize and educate Barbadians about reparations and how we can all join in its advocacy towards reparations. Joining us this morning will be the Honorable John King, who is the Minister with responsibility for culture and the National Development Commission, and a research officer from the National Task Force on Reparations. So we'll take a very deep look at that subject. This morning as well, we'll be meeting a Barbadian who is a part of the fellowship at the Vanderbilt University of Tennessee. And so she's been walking all over that, literally walking all over that state, talking about Barbados. We want to talk about her this morning here on Morning Barbados. But I'm excited to start a new journey with you, turning the chapters of this book. This book. It is the Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges. What are they? You'll share with me in this book a little later on Morning Barbados. So just a little bit of what you can see when you join me at 6:30. Wendy Beryl, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Pearson Bartholomew, and we'll see you at the bottom of the hour. We'll take another break and return with more news. A former president of the Barbados Pharmaceutical Society is in agreement with Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley about setting up an international pharmaceutical manufacturing plant here. Paul Gibson believes Barbados could be a hub for Ghana. He says he has submitted a proposal to government.
Discussions began with the higher authorities in respect to doing the top 10 medications for Ghana. With the advent, of course, of COVID, the suggestion was made in February of 2021 by myself, looking at the possibility of having a COVID-19 vaccine plant in Barbados. And I'm happy that the suggestion I made was actually endorsed by the Prime Minister and uttered at the UNTAD conference. You see, at the end of the day, Barbadians have to remember that this is about Barbados. This is about our best interests. And it is about advancement of not only our country, but using the resources and depth of knowledge and experience had or imbued in our Barbadian scientists and administrators.
There's good news for young people in some parts of St. George who will be gaining access to facilities in the near future that will allow them to occupy their time positively. Minister in the Ministry of Housing, Peter Phillips, says half an acre of land has been earmarked for development in Workmans on which a recreational facility will be built. He was leading off debate on a resolution to acquire the plot of land. Minister Phillips says COVID-19 has forced many people to find ways to monetize their talents, and having access to the facility, which will include a resource center, can help them to hone their craft.
When we talk about recreational facilities, we're talking about creation of a resource center in that area, which will serve places, and the Member of Parliament would know better than I do, but I believe places like Jericho and Workman's and so on, so that Lower Estate, Orange Estate, so that the minds of these young people in the area, and perhaps older folks as well, who are yet sharp, can be able to be occupied based on what is being provided for them.
Henderson Williams has a word for the critics who have an issue with him becoming a member of the Barbados Labour Party. Speaking to Morning Report, the former DLP member says politics has always been about how he can help people. Additionally, Williams says Prime Minister Mia Moore-Motley is doing an excellent job in helping Barbados through the pandemic.
My participation initially in politics was about doing for the place for which I originate. And I believe in terms of my demonstration throughout that process that I think I did a good showing. I continue because I believe David Ellis said, but you know, Henderson, you know, this thing is about stickability. And the fact that you've moved away from the Democratic Labour Party, the city people will probably be saying that you have abandoned them. And I said, absolutely not. But at the end of the day, you have to be looking for what is best for your society. You have to be looking for what is best for the community. And certainly it is easy to sit on the sideline and criticize. And particularly in this environment where the world is facing such an awful pandemic. The Prime Minister has been working absolutely hard. People may not be aware, and I obviously wasn't aware until recently, the type of work that the Prime Minister has been putting in. So if I do a fair judgment of what I'm seeing in relation to the effort, you know, she has to get a passing grade.
Mr. Williams says he will also be using his human resources background to assist however he can. And one project he's sweet on is business process outsourcing.
That has tremendous potential for jobs in Barbados and the people in Barbados, because it's in excess of $1 trillion out there that Barbados is now throwing its hat in the ring and participating in that. And I'm going to be working with her in that regard to ensure that Barbados continues to step up and continue to box outside of its size.
Meanwhile, more opportunities are coming for young Barbadians through government's Block Entrepreneur Initiative. Also speaking during their resolution, Minister of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, Dwight Sutherland, revealed that work is to start soon on several other kiosks. Already, he says 15 kiosks have been built at 5 locations on island.
Only this morning, I was speaking to the member for St. Michael Northwest, and to tell him that his plans that he has agreed upon are on their way to town and country planning for the construction of 5 kiosks at Freehill in St. Michael, where we can truly speak about empowering the young people on the block in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of small businesses. And the member for St. Michael South, his drawings are already with town and country planning. The member for Christchurch East, the member for the city. And I can go on and on and on to let you know that this year we will start 6 more blocks.
About 216,000 children are estimated to have been sexually abused by thousands of French Catholic priests deacons and other clergy since 1950. That's the finding of an independent inquiry alleging the phenomenon was covered up by a veil of silence. The details were made public yesterday and are the latest to rock the Roman Catholic Church after a series of sexual abuse scandals around the world, often involving children, over the past 20 years.
Many children abused by members of the Catholic Church were not believed or listened to for years. Some were even accused of contributing to what had happened to them. Among those victims, Olivier Savignac, abused by a priest when he was 13.
Yes, the report is an earthquake. Yes, it's a hurricane. Yes, it's a tsunami. And it has to be a tsunami because today, when we see the numbers, it's so damning that no one can be in denial, both within the Catholic Church and the whole of society.
The Roman Catholic Church betrayed the trust of the young and vulnerable on a devastating scale. The conclusion of a 2.5-year investigation into clerical child abuse carried out by 3,000 suspected paedophiles in the French church.
In the French population now aged 18 and over, 216,000, plus or minus 50,000, were sexually assaulted by clerics, priests or nuns as minors.
And when lay members of the church, such as teachers at Catholic schools, are included, the number of child victims climbs to 330,000 over the 7-decade period.
A major point that must be underlined is that until the early 2000s, there was a deep, total and even cruel indifference for years.
Recent scandals have decimated the church's credibility at a time of dwindling attendances. Last year, defrocked French Catholic priest Bernard Prenat was sentenced to 5 years in jail for abusing scouts in his care several decades ago. The case also led to the resignation of his superior, the Archbishop of Lyon, Philippe Barbarin, accused of covering up the abuse. The scandal in France is the latest to hit the Catholic Church, rocked by abuse scandals around the world. In June, Pope Francis said the church abuse crisis was a worldwide catastrophe. This year he issued an extensive revision of church law, insisting bishops take robust action against clerical abuse. The French church said in March it would propose some form of financial aid to the victims, but campaigners have been left asking how it's possible to put a price on suffering.
A 93-year-old woman lost her life in one of 2 house fires yesterday. Police have identified the deceased of Vitrose Hines of Waterhall Road, Apes Hill, St. James. Her body was discovered in the rear bedroom of the house when emergency officials responded to the blaze. 2 tenders and 7 officers under the command of Station Officer Marlon Small responded to the fire. They were assisted by residents, and neighbor Carrie Phillips spoke about the elderly woman.
Was a neighborhood person. She used to work her garden, deal with her pigs. She used to work at Waterhall Plantation for a number of years. I know her all my life. You could say 42 years of my life I knew her. She was a very outspoken person. Children, she'll watch out for the children in the gap. A very nice person she was.
In sports, Kieron Pollard and defending champions Mumbai Indians need just 8.2 overs to chase down the 91 runs required to beat Rajasthan Royals yesterday and keep their Indian Premier League playoff hopes alive. Mumbai went into the game knowing that defeat would eliminate them from playoff contention, but thrived under the pressure as they delivered a near-complete performance in romping to an 8-wicket win. Player of the match, Nathan Coulter-Nile, with 4 and 4 for 14, and Jimmy Neesham, 3 for 12, were the standout performance, with the ball as Royals limped to 90 for 9. Evan Lewis top scored with 24, that included 3 fours and a 6. Ishtan Kishan then blitzed an unbeaten 25 ball with 5 fours and 3 sixes to take Mumbai to victory on 94 for 2. Mumbai not only got the 2 points for the victory, but they've also improved their net run rate. Here are the highlights. In Barbados right now, the temperature stands at 25.4 degrees Celsius, but it feels like 31. The humidity, 91%, and the barometric pressure, 13.9 millibars. The wind, again, blowing from the east-southeast at 26 kilometers per hour. Look at the tides. The first low tide will be at 9:30 a.m. and the second at 9:47 p.m. High tide will be in the afternoon at 3:42 p.m. The seas are moderate in open water with swells ranging from 1.5 to 2 meters and steady. Today's forecast, sunny with cloudy periods and a few brief scattered light showers. Tonight, it's expected to be a mix of clear skies and clouds with a few brief scattered light showers. And here now is a look at our international cities. That was today's morning report. Our next newscast on TV8 will be noon Newsday. Join us then. We now join Pearson Bowen for Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning, 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 morning.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Today. Today is Wednesday, October the 6th, 2021. I am Pearson Bowen, welcoming all of you here in Barbados, watching us on your TV screens. As always, grateful for your company, or those of you across the globe watching us either on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook streams as well. It is so wonderful having your company. Today, Wednesday, the middle of the week. And yeah, the weekend is already in sight. This morning, our urologist Dr. Paul Rouse will join us. We're looking at still at some recurrent urinary tract infections and how can you deal with that. But of course, this morning I also want you to pay very close attention for those of you in positions of authority or seeking to be your new manager, you're just a new supervisor, you're just taking on new responsibilities. We want to look at that toolkit that will help you become the success that your organization knows you to be. And certainly Joan Underwood, the author of the book Manager's First Aid Kit, a practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges, will join us as we begin that journey every Wednesday now to look at how we can upskill you so you can better serve in the position you're in and those with whom you have responsibility. So we look at that today, focusing primarily on emotional intelligence. Yep, that's a phrase you heard bandied about a little bit, but what is it? Emotional intelligence, and what is emotional agility? Those are some of the areas we'll be looking at this morning as we delve in particularly to chapter 1. So let's get going this morning by taking a look at reparations and the work of the National Task Force on Reparations. My trident is broken. That's the slogan. And so to join us this morning to talk a little bit more about that and how we can all join forces in agitating for reparations is the Honorable John King, who is the Minister in the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for culture, who is also the part of the chairing of the National Task Force on the National Development. And with him is Shane Archer, who is a research officer with the National Task Force on Reparations. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning. Good morning.
Minister, we'll start with you. Put all of this clearly into context. Why are we saying my trident is broken, and why should we be concerned or care about reparations?
All right, so this is a debate that has been going on for even before my birth, before you, and it is something that the world needs to address as a matter of urgency. 2 years ago, I guess it's about 2 years ago now, we had the movement Black Lives Matter, and that all stemmed from, again, a lot of the problems, the residue left behind us from the days of slavery. As we know, I think these conversations become very uncomfortable for a lot of people. Slavery has left us, and when I say us, I mean us, the descendants of slavery itself, as well as those who were part and parcel of that other thing called colonialism. It has left us almost 400 to 500 years behind the rest of what we call the so-called developed world. And reparations really is about us being able to repair the damage that has been done to us. It's been done to us economically, it's been done to us psychologically, it's been done to us even in terms of our own health and well-being. And oftentimes, if you become comfortable within the space that you are in, this is what you know, and this is what you expect for yourselves. And then therefore, it leaves you in a place where the rest of the world has a particular way of looking at us as a people. And I don't think I have to spell it out to anybody. Anyone who is aware and conscious of their history and of what has been, for persons like myself, a reality from birth up until now, would know the importance of correcting these wrongs. Now, this is a human issue. Oftentimes, people try to break it down to just a person of African descent issue. This is a worldwide human issue, a human rights issue also. And so therefore it is important that we, the persons who are suffering the most from all of this, have a voice at the table, have a voice that is consistent. You have classic examples. Wherever you go in this world, you will hear those persons who would have suffered in the Holocaust, so to speak. Their voices have been heard, and their pleas and their cries have been answered by people all over the world. It's recognized, from movies to books to documentaries to whatever it is. It is well documented, and it is taught from one generation to the next, so that something like this would never happen to them again. We need to do the same thing, but unfortunately, even though we do what we do, we don't get the same support. Now that tells me a lot about how the world itself views us and views our concerns. And I think the time has come where we as Black people have to be a little bit more aggressive and a little bit more serious about how we treat to these kinds of issues. And the unfortunate thing is that these things are not taught in school, these things are not taught in the homes, these things are not taught. You have to go out individually and try to get information and find like-minded people to have this kind of discourse. And we are saying at this juncture that we need the energy of our young people more than ever on this particular issue. We cannot allow it to die and just be swept under the carpet, as has been done in the past. And so therefore, the time is now. And for those who keep asking why now, there's really no question to ask about now. It should be every day, but we're here now.
Yes. Well, we've been stripped over the centuries of our own identity, not just by our colonizers, but even by ourselves. And so we're asking people to look into the mirror squarely and be honest about ourselves, because as you've described, Minister, the world sees us in one context, but we also see ourselves within varying contexts as well. So how are we going to begin the discussion so that we all see ourselves as one, as a collective of people of color? I was going to say against, but you know what I mean when I say against those who have other perceptions of ourselves.
I think, Pearson, you've hit the nail on the head. And I don't think, and I'll just shift a little bit. I don't think we have to see ourselves as against anyone else. We have to be the ones who create the narrative of who we are and what is it that we want to accomplish in this world, and what place in the scheme of of the history of the world do we hold? You know, our narrative has been written all the time by others, and it
Yes.
starts 99.9% of the time. It starts with slavery or the enslavement of our
Yes.
people, which is totally, you know, off base. But we understand why it has been done this way. Oftentimes these things are done to justify the inhumane treatment that is meted out to us. I mean, let's get serious. There was a point in time when scientists and religious people and all sorts of made or tried to make a point that we were not necessarily human beings, not full human beings based on our skin color. Now, these are things that we're still grappling with today. You have young people and I dare say some older people still struggling, as you said earlier, with identity. You have people bleaching their skins.
Yes.
You have people straightening their hair. You have people changing their noses. You got just all of this craziness going on. And these are all parts and parcel of that self-loathing that has been developed over hundreds of years by our people, by ourselves, through a lens that we see ourselves as less than the rest of the world. And we have to correct it. And the only way that you're really going to correct it, sad to say, is with the energy and with the willpower of our young people, because there are too many people within my age group and up who are satisfied and who will tell you to your face that this is not important. You understand? You can't save the whole world, but you can begin the process of saving future generations, and that's the way that I look at it.
Shane, as the research officer with the National Task Force on Reparations, what is your research throwing up about what we just spoke about?
Well, basically, Pearson, there is a report done by the task force, which I would like I wish the nation could have a copy of, because when we look back into history and we see the inhumane treatment which our ancestors, we ain't talking about ancestors from anywhere else in the world, we're talking about here in Barbados. And if we see the inhumane treatment that these people and that our ancestors were given, I think that more young people and more persons in general in Barbados would be more active and to more understand who we are. And this is also important, as Barbados are signatories to the Intangible Cultural Heritage, which is a project started from UNESCO. And part of this project is to encourage citizens to know more about who they are. And with Barbados now going towards a republic, I believe that this conversation needs to be had now about who we are, reparations, and everything in terms of why we need reparations. And we need reparations because we look at a depleted school system, we look at a depleted healthcare system. We see so many different problems within society, and people wonder why we need reparations. We need reparations also because Barbados, as a former colony of Britain, was on a list of the second most important colony to the British Empire. And the British government or British companies came here and exploited Barbadians and exploited people of the Caribbean to such a state and they left us with nothing. And when we look at Britain, we see a developed society. When we look across Europe, we see developed societies. And this is why we need reparations now. And that is basically what my research so far has showcased to me.
I want to continue this discussion, if you don't mind, Minister and Shane as well, because we're going to take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk further about what that research revealed and the areas in which we as a people were decimated, and then what we can do about it as well. We're coming right back after this break.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
The subject is My Trident is Broken. We're looking at reparations right now with the Honorable John King, who is the Minister with responsibility for culture and the National Development Commission, and Shane Archer, who is a research officer with the National Task Force on Reparations. And Shane would have just outlined some of the things he's discovered from his research, where England at the time recognized us to be the second most important colony. And so, Minister King, a whole system shift occurred. As a consequence, we were literally washed of our African culture and supplanted with a European culture. That happened centuries ago, but look at what happens still today, that we're still living through, trying to get out of and to get back to what we ought to be. So the decimation happened in terms of literacy, a whole change in the way we thought, our perception of ourselves now as chattel and not simply as people. So let's break it down as to how serious this supplanting of a new culture affected all of us.
Okay, so let's look at some very basic things. You can always hear our people say things like we cannot get together to do anything. If we talk about business, you know, we are very wary of each other when it comes to things like that. You have even the little things that people say in a society. Like I've always been one who's questioned, why do we say things like, don't let your right hand know what your left hand doing? Secretive, you know, not open. If you look at our children, oftentimes you look at other parts of the world, you can see, you put a microphone in front of their children, they speak very boldly, they can express themselves. You look at our children, their eyes are down, they can't look you straight in the face. These are all small but very psychological problems that we have as a people. And the truth is if you cannot recognize it, it becomes the norm. But then it's even worse when you can recognize it, but you fail to address it. And I think the time has come where we have to address these things because they seriously affect everything. They affect how we think about business. They affect how we think about ourselves as being creative and the things how we value the things that we create, how we value ourselves. And it affects how we see ourselves in the scheme of the world. You know, oftentimes you look at the Caribbean, you look at the African countries, for many years, we've always depended on others. We've depended on others for the science. We've depended on others for technology. We've depended on others even sometimes for our own food. And this tells you that what you become is very dependent, and you become the consummate consumer. Whilst other persons are developing things and their own creators are coming up with things in medicine and all this sort of stuff. And where do we lay in it? We're just the persons at the back end buying all the time and consuming these things. And even in that itself, the rest of the world then looks at you as being less than, because there's nothing that you can show or that they see or recognize, even when you do it, that you have contributed to the betterment of humanity. And so these types of false ideas that people have, and they've been how should I say, watered and nurtured for many years. But we have to be the ones in the forefront of breaking these particular mindsets and giving our young people a new sense of worth, a new sense of belonging, a new confidence. And we must be self-determined in how we deal with each other across the world. And hence, you will see that we have this massive move now by this present administration to engage with the African continent, to engage with the diaspora from Brazil to wherever our people are found within the region. And it's important, it's very important that we break that chain of dependency, so to speak.
Break that trident into that chain. What I like about the whole initiative is because oftentimes we hear of reparations, we think of cancelling of debt. We think of give me money for. And you're saying it's much, much more than that. It's about changing the psyche. It's through education, as a matter of fact, that we turn the key to becoming better who we are and to being able to spot on, identify who we are so we can assert ourselves and gain our rightful place within the context of everything that's happening around us. Shane, do you get the sense from your research as well that there is a generational tug of war in this move towards reparations, where, as Minister King said, there's an era that says, why bother? But then there's the energy coming from the young people that says, yes, we must bother. Do you get that shift and pull?
Yes, I do. I do feel that shift, Pearson, because as Minister King outlined before, I think it all has to do with education. And with younger people now, we have more access to education. Not saying that the older people never had education or don't have, but we now have the internet. We now have different forms where we could go and do more research. So we are now better equipped to speak on these things and to understand why reparations are important. And I believe once we could make certain things available to the public, and this is why it is important to follow us on Instagram at My Trident is Broken, or follow us on or add us on Facebook, because we outline a number of the problems which we saw from the slavery, from the times of slavery, from the colonialism times. And if the younger Barbadians and the older Barbadians as well could come on board and to understand why we need reparations, and this is who we are and why we are doing this, not only because we have damaged systems, but because also of the psychological effect, and because of the effect when we see so many different problems in society, such as fathers not being a tenant in their child's life, the psychological effect of when slave masters would let the slaves have children and then don't give the fathers any responsibility, the psychological effect has dwindled down onto today's society. And I think that we are feeling it more today than we have ever felt it before. So yes, I do feel there's a tug of war, and I believe that this generation will be the generation to truly make a change and to fight for the battle for reparations thoroughly.
Indeed. So My Trident is Broken is the campaign. We find it on Instagram. We find it on all your social media platforms. My Trident is Broken. You're encouraging all of us to log in, log on, add yourselves to everything to it. So we also engage in this process towards reparation as well. But in all of it, we're enlightening ourselves, which is, I think, far more critical at this juncture. Enlightening ourselves as to who we are, what we represent, and what is the potential, which is so critical. And that's why Minister King, with responsibility for culture in particular, we're seeing it in our performing artists as well. We're seeing young people creating things that stun us every day, whether it's through music or other disciplines as well. So how much of that is going to be a part of the movement towards reparation?
Well, personally, we've had a history of the artistic community being in the forefront of this whole idea of not only reparations, but also of, let's say, self-determinism.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at what the Calypsonians would have done for years, you had songs from persons like Chart Dust, I Want Back My Grandfather Back Pay. Mm-hmm. You could Caribbean Man from Stalin. I mean, there's so many of them. And then even just 1 month ago, we had 17 artists from Barbados taking their work to St. Croix, and the whole thing was about slavery and the effects of it, and emancipation and stuff like that. So the artistic community continues to be in the forefront of keeping these messages alive and of jogging our consciousness, so to speak, to get us to where we need to be as a group in order to make the changes that are necessary within ourselves to first liberate, as Bob Marley would have said, and as Marcus Garvey would have said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. That is the biggest chain that binds us today. And so the reparations will be part of that healing process. Like you said, yes, some of it will come in the form of monetary returns, because let's not fool ourselves. Mm-hmm. Some of the things that people say, again, taught to them by others, leaves us in a lot of the positions that we're in. I'll give you a classic example. Someone comes to you and says to you, well, don't look for any of your riches here. Look for your riches in some other place. After you're dead and gone, you can get yours. Well, the same person who's telling you that is eating up the resources of the world all over.
Yes, yes.
You know, or someone tells you, hey, get rich. You know, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. And you sit back there, you absorb these things, not understanding full well what is being done to you and why these things are taught to you. But the same people who are teaching you these things are doing something completely different. And so we have to wake up. I've dedicated my life towards things like this. And I also want to take this time to mention the Honorable Trevor Prescott, who is our special envoy on reparations. He has been, I don't even know what adjective I can use to describe the work that he has been doing and continues to do in terms of getting our people to a point where they feel comfortable having these conversations, understanding that, and I have to put this on the table. You know, this is not about race. This is not about any particular person against any other person or nothing. I have to reiterate and make the point over and over again. This is a human issue, and it is, for me, important that all people, regardless of your ethnicity, regardless of your station in life, regardless of your education, regardless of what, that everybody has to be involved in this in order to repair the damage that has been done to the human race as a whole. And so, again, you have Mr. Rodney Grant, who is also the project manager for the reparations unit. You have a number of fantastic young and experienced persons on board. I want to shout out, and if I may, to those persons who may be nameless and sometimes faceless, but who have been in this fight for as long as I can remember. And I don't want to call any particular names, but they know who they are. And I want to take this opportunity to salute them on behalf of those of us now who are picking up the baton and trying to carry on from where they are left off, and our own ancestors who would have died in the name of freedom, those who would have contributed to a lot of the things that the world takes for granted today, our own scientists, our own medicine doctors and inventors, whose work has been, in a lot of cases, stolen. And the stories, as Shane mentioned earlier, are now coming to light in terms of what you can find on the internet and the things that you can learn. And I always say to people, if there's one thing that I will want our people to do, is to break a cycle that I'm witnessing now, where our people, more so than anybody else, seem to believe that the internet and all that it stands for is there only for one thing, and that is to destroy each other with the words, with some strange language, and all of this sort of stuff. All of this is part and parcel of that brainwashing, you know. And Shane made a point when he talked about the destruction of the family. One of the most heinous crimes committed on any people, and we are feeling the effects of it today. And you ask yourself, why is it that a lot of our young people, in particular now, and it's not just from this for this present generation, this has been going on from one generation to the next, seem to think that the only way they can solve their disagreements or their problems is by killing each other. These are the effects of miseducation. These are the effects of low self-esteem. And they're not going away by serendipity. They're not going to go away by just waving a magic wand and saying abracadabra, change. You have to put in the work. There has to be psychological work done. Social workers have to be involved in this. Policies from governments across the world must change to empower and enfranchise our people. And it's going to be a long process. Because this is probably over 500 years of this kind of behavior.
Right.
But it's not impossible, but it is extremely important. And I know I might sound like, as they say, a stuck record. I have to keep repeating it over. I think it's through repetition that you begin to get people to understand
Yes.
that changing the mindset will change everything else in the world that we suffer from. And the
Indeed.
time is now. And I want to just thank you, Pearson, for allowing us, Shane and myself, to be a part of Morning Barbados. And I hope that people out there are listening, and you look yourself in the mirror this morning and you ask yourself, what is it that I can do on an individual level first? And then what can I do in my community to start this process, this healing, and to be a part of this movement to get the reparations that we so much deserve.
Indeed. So very quickly, Shane, just remind us of how we can engage with the campaign My Trident is Broken.
Okay, so you can find us on Instagram at My Trident is Broken, or you can also find us on Facebook on the Barbados National Task Force on Reparations. We are hoping to have a YouTube channel up soon. We are trying to have a youth arm of the task force to be started to have more young people involved, and we are also trying to get a jingle out there so that the rest of Barbados can hear. We have heard a demo of it and we love it. So soon from now, we hope to be back with you, Pearson, and the rest of Barbados to share this jingle with you, because this is an important movement.
Indeed. It will be our tremendous pleasure to have you back indeed. Honorable John King, who is the Minister in the Prime Minister's Office with responsibility for culture, and the National Development Commission, Shane Archer, who is the Research Officer with the National Task Force on Reparations. Thank you so much, and thank you for agreeing to stay on a little bit longer as well, as we continue to look at this whole question of reparations, and most importantly, how we as a people in Barbados can join the campaign of My Trident is Broken, and to get to know more about ourselves and others like us as well. Thank you so much, gentlemen. All the best going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pearson.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
We'll take a break right here, and when we're coming back with the news. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's now 7 o'clock. It's time for us to take a look at the news. Once again, here is Wendy Burke.
Thank you, Pearson. Barbados has recorded a new record in its daily number of COVID-19 cases, 318. This number comes from 2,786 tests conducted on Monday at the Bestel Santos Public Health Lab. The number of males and females was even, 159, with 69 being under the age of 18. 926 people are now in isolation. A 93-year-old woman lost her life in one of two house fires yesterday. Police have identified the deceased as Vitros Hines of Waterhall Road, Apes Hill, St. James. Her body was discovered in the rear bedroom of the house when emergency officials responded to the blaze. 2 tenders and 7 officers under the command of Station Officer Marlon Small responded to the fire. They were assisted by residents, and neighbor Carrie Phillips spoke about the elderly woman.
This was a neighborhood person. She used to work her garden, deal with her pigs. She used to work at Waterhall Plantation for a number of years. I know her all my life. You could say 42 years of my life I knew her. She was a very outspoken person. And children, she'll watch out for the children in the gap. A very nice person she was.
A man remains in police custody, being questioned in connection with a stabbing incident in Bridgetown yesterday, which resulted in 2 women being injured. Word of this from Acting Police Public Relations Officer Inspector Stephen Griffith. According to lawmen, the incident occurred on Broad Street in the city. The 2 women, whose identities were not released, were taken to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital by ambulance for medical attention. Police say the injuries inflicted are not life-threatening. In sports, West Indies batsman Chris Gayle is no longer the holder of the world record for being the fastest to reach 7,000 career runs in T20 cricket. Gayle, who scored 7,000 T20 runs in 192 innings, has been surpassed by Pakistan captain Babar Azam. Azam reached the landmark during Central Punjab's National T20 Cup clash against Southern Punjab earlier this week, playing in his 187th inning. He needed only 4 runs to reach the milestone when he walked into bat in the Pindi Cricket Stadium. The 26-year-old also holds the record of fastest Asian batter to score 3,000, 4,000 and 6,000 T20 runs. He is also the fastest batter ever to score 1,000 and 2,000 T20 runs in the game. The Karachi Kings superstar has represented Pakistan in 61 T20s, where he scored 2,204 runs. Well, Pearson, it's back to you now. That's a wrap on news for us.
Thank you so much, Wendy. It's 4 minutes after 7. We'll take a break here and we're coming back with more on Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Now don't forget, folks, all week next week, starting Monday right through to the end of the week, I want you to keep watching us here on Morning Barbados, because we'll be sharing with you where is it. This is the breast screening campaigns. Where's the pink ribbon? So every day, at a different time every day, you keep watching, because we want you to be able to identify that location day by day. So if it's Monday, if it is then you write that down for Monday. Tuesday, a different location. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, different locations each day, but you must be able to attach the location to the day. So get it right. So watch every day, note the day and the location, each of them, all 5 of them. Then you send your email in to us at morningbarbados@cbc.bb, and we let you know whether or not you're a winner. So you keep watching all week next week for a chance to win with the Barbados Breast Screening Program, and good luck. But now it's time for us to have our crumbs question of the day. Time for you right now to call me on 228-5562 or 228-5563, because I have a question for you. It is time for today's crumbs question of the day. It's a doozy. Ready for this? After who was Crumpton Street named? Don't scratch your head. Don't look at me. Don't get quarrel. Don't quarrel with me. After who was Crumpton Street named? 228-5562 or 228-5563. It was an education for me too. So after who was Crumpton Street named? You know, Crumpton Street is in the city. So after who was that street named? 228-5562 or 228-5563. Remember, Crumbs Bakery has locations all across the island, and you get a chance to win with Crumbs today with me. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi. How are you?
Good.
Good. Good to hear. Where are you watching us from?
In Philip.
Is you Melda?
My sister.
Is your Melda's sister? What's your answer?
John Crumpton.
John Crumpton?
Yes.
John Crumpton. How do you know that?
I learned it some years ago in history.
Or in your history teachings? Your memory is failing you right now, though, because that's not right. Sorry, Melda. Sorry, let's try again for another call. 228-5562 or 228-5563. After who was Crumpton Street named? 228-5562 or 228-5563. There's a generation of people who need to know. And I'm sure you're doing your research wherever you can pull your information from. I know exactly where you're going. So you tell us, after who was Crumpton Street named? 228-5562 or 228-5563. When we're thinking about affordable baked products, we have to think Crumbs Bakery. When we're thinking of it being tasty right down to the very last crumb, we got to think Crumbs Bakery. Good morning to you. Hello.
Hi, morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Fantastic. Good to hear. Where are you watching us from?
Home.
Listen, you know you're all right. You won't be like that. Cool. What parish are you now in?
St. James.
All right, St. James. What is your answer?
Is it George?
Don't ask me questions. What is your answer?
George Crumpton.
George who? George Crumpton?
Yes.
No.
No.
Yeah. Thanks for trying the home. 228-5562 or 228-5563. After who was Crumpton Street named? After who was Crumpton Street named? Good morning. Hello.
Yeah, good morning, Pearson. How are you?
I am well today. Thank you for asking. My boy here from up the hill from me. What's your answer?
I could try I would say it was named after a street.
After who?
After a street.
After who?
A street.
Yeah, but who? Who, after who is that name called Crumpton? You know, in other words, we'll come again. Crumpton Street is the name of the street. After who is that street named? A man, a person. Do you know?
After a headmaster.
Who is that in the back telling you the answer?
Pardon?
Who in the back is whispering in your ear?
What they tell me, I just
I heard the voice, you know.
No,
but that's all right.
That's my wife's back. She didn't tell me the answer. Yeah,
okay. That's the sweetheart. But no, that's not right either. Thanks for trying on that one. Can we take another call? 228-5562 or 228-5563. I'm just having way too much fun with you guys. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
What parish are you watching us from?
St. Andrew.
Miss St. Andrew, what's your answer?
Is it Samuel?
Samuel who?
Crumpton.
Oh, Samuel Crumpton? You know him?
No.
You sure?
No.
So where did you... Listen, y'all stealing my thunder. No, in other words, you heard that? Did you hear that?
Yeah.
What did that tell you?
I'm wrong.
You're right on that. You're wrong. Thanks very much. All right, Mr. Andrew. 228-5562 or 228-5563. Don't let the time get away from us, everybody. Come. I want to give you something today from Crumbs Bakery. Good morning. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Not too bad.
Well, that's good to hear that you're doing well. What parish are you watching us from?
St. Michael.
St. Michael, what's your answer for me?
A local landowner by the name of William Crump.
A local landowner by the name of William Crumpton? Crump. Where did you find that information?
Where you find all your information.
Oh, you find all of your information on the internet? Almost. No, that's a different answer. But that's... the mystery has been solved. That's not right. Thanks for trying, though. Thank you very much. Where you almost find all your information on the internet, sometimes it's not right what you find on the internet. So you still have to go to those traditional sources. But let's see if we can take one more call. Just one more. Somebody's there? Okay. Hi, good morning. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. So where are you watching from?
St. James.
St. James. What's your answer?
John Swan.
John Swan. So Crumpton Street is named after John Swan. That's your thinking?
Yes.
And what led you to that conclusion?
I just think it's the right answer.
You think it's the right answer. So how did you stumble upon John Swan?
I just stumbled upon it.
Oh, you just call it a name?
Yeah.
Man, no, you can't do that. That's
But
wrong.
is it right?
No, it is not right. It is dead wrong. No. But thank you for trying. Thank you so much. And thank you, all of you, for trying as well. We're going to reserve that question for another time. We'll reserve that question for another time. You never know. Do your research and we'll give you another chance another time. All right? We're going to take a break right here. When we come back, we'll meet Abajan Afar. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Fourteen and a half minutes now after 7 o'clock on this Wednesday morning, and we can't wait to meet up with this young lady who's residing in Tennessee, as a matter of fact. Her name is Trinette Belgrave. She's a Humphrey Fellowship. She's with the Humphrey Fellowship program at Vanderbilt. Good morning to you, Trinette.
Good morning. Good morning.
Look at that smile. Look at that smile. Oh my goodness. We saw your story on social media and immediately we thought we had to have you to celebrate who you are. Now let's start at the beginning. Yes, that's how we discovered you. So let's start at the beginning. You're in Tennessee. How come you're in Tennessee?
Through the Humphrey Fellowship Program. It's a Fulbright scholarship sponsored by the U.S. Embassy, and it's geared toward young and mid-career professionals. And the concept is really a compilation of academic study, professional development, and mutual exchange. So there are other Humphrey Fellows from various countries, and based on our areas of focus, we've been posted at different universities around the U.S. where we pursue studies in these particular fields.
So you're at Vanderbilt University. So how has it been for you there so far?
It has been an enriching experience, obviously, a larger campus than what I would have been accustomed to at the University of the West Indies.
By far.
There's lots of diversity as it relates to the content as well as my colleagues. So that lends itself to growth as well as an opportunity to learn about different cultures and persons and so on.
You have a natural smiley face, which makes it no doubt very easy for you to integrate yourself with others. And I've realized by reading your story that you are also taking the opportunity, because it's all part of the program, to be able to move around and share about your culture as well. Talk to him a little bit about when you meet up with others and you want to talk Barbados. What is that experience like?
Yes, Barbados all day, every day.
Talk to
I
me
am
about that.
always pleased to talk about my homeland. My initial response from my colleagues, I'm the only English-speaking person native in my cohort, My cohort is specializing in educational administration, planning, and policy. So my colleagues were quite intrigued by Barbados. Some of them had never heard about our island before, and they were quite shocked that we were only 166 square miles. And definitely, I always take up that opportunity to share with them. Additionally, I had a presentation at Vol State Community College, and I was also quite pleased that some of the faculty members there knew about Barbados, and we were able to engage and have quite an interesting dialogue about culture and all things Barbadiana, of course. So definitely that was a pleasing moment for me, for sure.
So when you inquired of them how they knew of Barbados, what did they say?
Most persons would say it's a small island. One or two of them would have visited. Some said for maybe their anniversary or just for vacationing purposes. And I thought initially that persons would say Rihanna, right?
Yes.
But most persons said they visited Barbados because they thought it was a beautiful island and they wanted to try our tourism offerings.
And when you hear those kinds of compliments about our beautiful island, the land of your birth, how does it make you feel?
Very happy, to be honest. Very, very happy. Actually, I was on the shuttle about 3 days ago, and one of my colleagues, he sat next to me. He said, Trinette, I have to tell you, I did not know much about Barbados before until I met you. And coincidentally, I was listening to your Prime Minister and her speech on the UN. I think it was last week, and he said that he was very impressed with our leadership as well, and I was indeed very excited to learn that he was actually paying attention to us and listening, because at times you feel because you're from a small island developing state, sometimes you can be easily overlooked.
Yes.
But obviously we are small, but we are doing mighty things.
Absolutely, and that's what's most important. And you're part of the process of showing the world that we are small, but we are doing mighty things. Part of what you've been doing too is also looking back at your school. You came from the Aline School. And so you had a very wonderful moment there. I saw the current principal of the Aline School. How was that when you, as part of your reaching back and giving back to your alma mater?
Well, I attended the foundation school, but I am also a very proud member of the Aline School because I'm a teacher there. And I do not take for granted any opportunity to highlight the greatness of the Aline School.
Okay.
Of course, we are indeed a hidden gem, and our staff and our students have lots to share. In this particular picture, I was sharing about some of the offerings at the Aline School, our vision and so on, from our principal, Ms. Julia Beckles. So I do not take any opportunity lightly to share about the Aline School. Although I went to foundation, I do believe that I am a part and parcel of the Aline School.
Good, and they're owning you now, girl. Thank you so much for that indeed. So how long have you been there now, though, in Tennessee?
I've been here from August, just over like 6 to 7 weeks.
Well, and you're impacting in such a significant way already. You're definitely a powerhouse. How much longer do you have there?
About 9 to 10 more months.
When you look at it within that context, 9 to 10 more months, does it daunt you or does it excite you?
Of course, it is exciting. There's sometimes a measure of trepidation, obviously, because there's a lot to do as it relates to the academic content and so on. But I believe that God will give me the strength and grace I need to continue.
Amen. You missing home yet?
Of course. Of course.
What are you missing about home?
Of course. Fresh fish.
Yes. The fresh fish.
That's right. Fish for sure. I miss my family. I have 2 children and a husband. So I definitely miss those aspects. I miss my students. Yesterday was World Teachers Day.
Yes.
And I was inundated with some sweet messages from our darling Alenians. So I really do miss home and miss interacting with my family and friends. But I know that this too would cause me to grow and have that growth mindset that I need to be able to inspire change, not just in myself, but in others as well.
Has it been easy being able to find your way around, acclimatizing yourself to the whole change in culture, temperature, the whole works?
Yes, it has been difficult. I shared with my course coordinator that I'm an island girl, so obviously the cold, it's fall now, so I've been adjusting as best as possible, layering as best as possible also. Sometimes they say, "Oh, Trinette, this is good weather," and I'm like, "Okay."
But it's cold.
It's cold. But I've been adjusting. I had an opportunity to study in London a few years ago with my undergrad, so I've been accustomed to some extent, but definitely this is a new type of cold as well.
Oh, I'm telling you, girl. It kind of gets into your bones.
Yes, yes. But we're not fully into winter yet, but I am hoping that it wouldn't be too bad. But as it relates to maneuvering around, Google Maps is king.
And it works.
I use Google Maps, yes, and it works. That's how I've been able to maneuver around and get to and fro. At first, it was a little, nerve-wracking because it's a larger city than Bridgetown, and when you're back home, you know where to go and so on.
Yes.
But I use Google Maps, and it has been a worthwhile tool.
You're getting there. Have you given thought to Christmas? Because that's almost here, and you will be there. And everybody else is in Barbados, but you'll be there. Have you given thought to that celebration?
Yes.
Kadir, I'm sorry.
A part of the program. It's okay. Sometimes you have to make sacrifices for the greater good.
Yes.
We have a part of our Humphrey Fellowship, a team of people called Friendship Families, and they have been very supportive and welcoming. And they do have some plans for us at Christmas so that we would not feel homesick and so on. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Oh, that's good to hear. Now, you're in Nashville, sister. We talking country music here. Have you heard enough of it to like it yet? I
always liked country music.
Okay,
I particularly like Reba and Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton.
Yes.
But I wouldn't say that it is overwhelming.
Okay.
It is definitely a sight to behold, especially in downtown, and on Sundays they have live bands, which is quite interesting and so on. And you can sit and have your meals and listen, and it's quite interesting.
Wow.
Quite different to back home, because on Sundays back home, Bridgetown is quiet, right?
You got
we
that
need
right.
to do something about reviving Bridgetown.
See there? That's your job. When you come back, that's what you have to do. Now, we're also living in the midst of a pandemic, and there are restrictions. How is it in Nashville, Tennessee? Are you required to wear face masks all 24/7 practically once you're in public? What are the restrictions, and how are you coping?
Well, initially we had to be COVID tested prior to coming on campus. So that was the first requirement. When we're in buildings, in class, we wear our mask, but on the outside, persons don't wear their mask. It's a lot more, it's not as stringent here to me. I find persons are a lot more liberal. On the bus and public transport, you're required to wear a mask. But once you're out in open, you are able to be maskless and maneuver accordingly.
Have you dropped your guard, or are you still practicing the protocols that we in Barbados practice?
I still try to practice my protocols. Although I am fully vaccinated, I still try to practice my protocols because I am in a strange land, right?
Yes.
This is not my home,
Correct.
so I still need to be very, very cautious. And definitely, I took a picture with one of my colleagues when I was at an NFL match
Wow.
last weekend.
Mhm.
Yes, I was able to experience that. I was very excited. And my dad called me in no time. I
Yes.
noticed that you don't have a mask on. I had to reassure him, Daddy, I just only took it off for
For
like
the
a few
picture.
seconds real quick. Exactly. But my dad was livid. He was not having it.
And that's beautiful. That even though his little girl is in Tennessee, he's still reaching across the sea. So make sure you're all right. So we got to leave it right now. But Trinette, we're so immensely proud of you. Yours is such a beautiful story. You're such a warm, engaging person as well. I want you to say hi to your little ones, your children at home, and to your husband. I want you to do that right now.
Hi, Rodney. Hi, Tajana. Hi, Tariq. Mommy misses you.
Oh, that is sweet. Thank you so much, Trinette Belgrave, for joining us this morning. Good luck in all of your work, and thank you for representing Barbados so well there in Tennessee as well. We can't wait to hear the rest of the stories about the rest of your journey. So do come share it with us really soon, all right?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Isn't she delicious and delightful? Trinette Belgrave, or Bajan Afar, who we met just right here. She's in Tennessee, by the way, and she teaches with the Allen School, though she went to school at Foundation School. You don't hold that against her. We're coming right back after this break.
Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 29 minutes after the hour of 7 o'clock. You know, you encounter people in your life and then you're so fascinated by them, you can't wait to see them over and over. Joan Underwood is one such for me. She is such an inspiration, but who is she? Let me just tell you a little bit about who she is. She is the managing director of Underwood Talent Development Services, which is an acclaimed consulting firm specializing in helping professionals, business enterprises, governments, in helping professionals, all of us really, to navigate our way towards being high performance individuals, teams, and the like. And she's written this book. Yep, Manager's First Aid Kit. This book is great. I commend it to you. She joins me now as we take some time delving through chapter by chapter so we learn more. Joan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Pearson. I got to get you on my PR team.
There's a cost to that, just to let you know. But Joan, I started to read the book, and you know, it's interesting. Mornin Barbados has really put me back into reading a whole lot more. And I started to read your book. And in reading your book, I was riveted immediately. And it's because you tell it from your place of knowledge and experience. And I think for a lot of people who oftentimes pick up a book and read some technical jargon and you figure, hey, that person doesn't really quite know it, we can get you in this book.
Thank you so much, because that's exactly the spot I was aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
For years, I was a lecturer and facilitator at the Cahill School of Business. And, you know, we use texts that primarily are international. And of course, the theory is solid, but the relatability was lacking. So when I decided to write my book, I wanted to ensure that it was very relatable, that it was very practical, and that we as Caribbean people could see ourselves in the pages.
And I did. I saw myself immediately through the pages. Now, folks at home, I want you to get a copy of the book because week by week, you know, you can learn it with us. You can experience it with us as well. And it's broken down into 3 parts, several chapters, but 3 parts, looking at managing self, managing people, and managing processes. And ideally, that's what it is. And when you hear the word manager, don't become scared. Don't think, oh my goodness, that's for them. It's for all of us, because each of us, day in, day out, have to manage self, we have to manage others, whether it's our child or those with whom we relate. And we have to manage processes. What do we do with our time? How do we get this done far more efficiently? So it's a real practical, everyday guide for everybody to have. Do you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, the extent to which that is the case has kind of caught me off guard. Because of course I knew my target audience, and you know, when you're writing, the people who know more about writing than I do, they advise that you have a specific person in mind when you're writing. Not even a category of people, but a specific person. So as I wrote each page, each chapter, I had someone in mind and I was like, okay, what do I need to share with her about this? After the book was launched last December, a particular category that I will tell you was not on my radar, you know, they came on board and they said, well, this is good for us too. And those are the entrepreneurs. Because I was thinking about new supervisors, new managers, people who aspired to be managers. But the entrepreneurs, I mean, now I think, duh, of course, because they have to navigate the exact same terrain.
Yes, yes, indeed so. You started by very simply telling the story of Lydia. And while I don't want to give all away, tell us the story of Lydia so we can see clearly why walking this journey with you through this book is going to be a real godsend in navigating life.
Okay, so Lydia's real name is Jackie. And I used the name of the restaurant where she worked because I didn't know how she would respond to it, but she loves the book.
Yes.
So Lydia was an exceptional waitress at a hotel with which I was affiliated. I mean, she had the uncanny ability to remember everyone's name, and I struggle in that area, so I really admire people. And in addition to that, she made you feel, while she was interacting with you, she made you so important.
Yes.
So the hotel in question was the Jolly Beach Resort. And the people familiar with Antigua will know
Antigua, yes.
And we get lots of repeat guests. Year after year, Jackie would remember people, their names, their backstories in terms of kids' names and what kids were doing. So people were just delighted to come back and to interact with Jackie. So there came a point in time when Jackie was promoted. So from waitress, she became maitre d' of the restaurant. Unfortunately, she wasn't prepared, as are the majority of managers, new managers, unfortunately. She was rewarded for being a great waitress by being put in a position that was outside her comfort zone.
Yes.
So what happened when the restaurant got busy? She would revert to doing what she knew how to do exceptionally well. So she would become another waitress, an uber efficient waitress, but another waitress. So what wasn't happening? She wasn't planning, she wasn't leading, she wasn't organizing, and she wasn't controlling. So for someone looking at what was happening in the restaurant, it looked as if no one was in control.
Right.
So fortunately for me, Jackie was a friend, not just someone that I saw and admired. And so I spoke to her about some training and development, and she went on to pursue the Carib certification, and she now lives in the US, where she's doing exceptionally well and has started her own catering business. So there's a happy ending for Lydia.
So what's the lesson? What's the lesson in that experience of Lydia that you think we can all draw from?
Preparation. Proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Indeed.
And when you are a member of line staff, a technical worker, a knowledge worker, a hands-on worker, the knowledge, skills, and abilities you need to succeed there are not the same ones you need for the next level up when you become a manager. So, and this message is not for the individual employees, it's for the organizations, the employers as well, because we have an obligation to prepare our people to succeed. You don't want to perform by putting them into a situation where they're going to struggle.
Yes.
But unfortunately, that is what happens more often than not.
And you know, it's a part of it too is incumbent on the individual to know whether or not they believe themselves suitable for the advancement. And I'll use one example, I can't call her name, from my past experience, another job I would have done, where there was this, and this was in banking. She was super good at being a teller, really, really good. Everybody loved her, very efficient, on top. And then the opportunity was given to her for advancement to be a supervisor. And she says, no, I don't, that's not for me. I'm better, I think, doing what I'm doing. And you know, gratefully enough, the bank recognized her for that. And so her salary moved up. She wasn't stuck at that particular pay grade all the time. Her salary moved up given the fact of her experience and what she is offering to the organization as well. So yes, you're right. Organizations need to recognize the skill sets, and whether or not they can provide the skill sets, the training to assist the person for advancement, or they can simply just leave it be and just reward them handsomely because they are effective at what they're doing. That's a tough one for any manager to really begin to grapple with.
But it's so important, and I'll come back because I'm a big advocate for taking ownership of your own journey. So we'll talk about what the organization needs to do, but we also focus on what the individual needs to do.
Right.
And this is an opportunity for us to mention that term, emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because self-awareness is so important. So your colleague that you just shared that story about, she clearly had a high level of self-awareness. She knew that's not me. That's not where my strengths lie. That's not what I aspire to. With all that self-awareness, she could have found herself going into the new role, a managerial role, being unhappy with it, and then struggling because she didn't have the requisite competencies to succeed. So self-awareness, integral component of emotional intelligence, and that's why the book starts with managing self.
You know, emotional intelligence is a term that a lot of people hear bandied about, and it just flies somewhere in the atmosphere and we don't know what it is. You know, and then could you break that down so that we can understand how self-awareness and those self-management and a whole host of things fall within emotional intelligence?
Absolutely. So let me begin by saying why it's important so that persons will realize that, listen, when I see it flying around, I need to hold on to it. So emotional intelligence is the research has shown, it's the single most valid and reliable predictor of leadership success. So that's why it's important. Another wonderful thing about it is that you can develop it. Unlike your IQ, which is essentially fixed, with your EQ or EI, you can develop it. So if you find that you're lacking in it now, you can make a conscious decision to rectify that. So there are 4 components in the simplest model, the one I use in the book, and I'll share it now. And it begins with self-awareness, as I mentioned before. Following on self-awareness, you have self-management or self-regulation. So you know yourself and you're able to regulate or control how you show up. The other 2 components relate to other. So the first 2 components relate to self, and then the other 2 relate to other. So you need, in addition to aware of your own emotions as you experience them and as you express them, it's important to be able to read the emotions of others.
Others, yes.
And that's something that, you know, unfortunately not everyone can do. So you need to have self-awareness, self-regulation, awareness of the emotions of others, and then the interpersonal relationships, because at the end of the day, every leader should realize that it's all about relationships. Whether it's family, whether it's work, church, community, human beings, we're social beings, and it's all about getting things done with and through others. So the quality of the relationships that you're able to have will help to determine your level of success.
Oh my goodness, that just made some people very uncomfortable, because oftentimes they'll say to you, yeah, we don't have to be friends. We're not friends, as a matter of fact. And so right away you create a barrier, a mental block, an emotional block that says you and I will never get along, and as a consequence I will never work for you nor with you. And so how do we break that down so that the individual who has responsibility for involving others, for motivating others, reach across and say, you know what, let me help you. Let's help each other. How do we break that down?
All right. Let's make the distinction between being friends and being friendly. I don't need to come to your home. Don't need to come to mine. We don't need to call each other. Well, nobody calls anybody. No, we don't need to be WhatsApping, and on each other's timeline and that.
Yes.
But we do need to be friendly towards each other. And, we'll get to this a little later on, but there's some essential building blocks that will help to ensure that we have mutually beneficial relationships.
Joan, we're going to take a break here. When I come back, we want to continue this discussion on chapter 1 because I think it is so critical that everybody absorbs all of it. But as we go to break, could you tell us quickly how to get a copy of the book so that they can start to follow along with us?
Okay, great. So you can check Days Bookstore. So they're available in store there. If you're someone who prefers to have an electronic copy of the book, you can go to my website, which is utdsinc.com, or you can also get it via Amazon. But why would you do that? And I'm right here in Barbados with the book, so you can also reach out to me on any one of my social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, or Facebook, and we can arrange a delivery.
Indeed. So, folks, we're going to come right back and continue with this wonderful lady, Joan Underwood, as we continue to look at the manager's first aid kit to being a much better leader. We're coming right back after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
I'm so enjoying this, I almost forgot something. But Joan, we're back together again. Joan Underwood is the author of the book Manager's First Aid Kit, practical guide to remedy the 3 most common managerial challenges: self, others, and processes. And in managing oneself, sometimes you have to be a little bit more aware of who you are and how others perceive you. And, sometimes it's not easy to hear how others critique you.
Indeed. And we all have blind spots.
You got that right.
Okay. And it can be uncomfortable when people move information from our unknown area to our known area.
Mm-hmm.
And especially if we didn't solicit their input, but they decide they're going to tell us.
Anyway, that's right.
But I choose to see feedback as a gift, even if it makes you a bit uncomfortable, because it's information you now have that you didn't have before. So it tells you how people are perceiving you, the stories people are telling themselves about you. And so once you become aware of it, if it doesn't align with your intentions, then you now have the opportunity to do something about it, as opposed to being oblivious. People still are thinking what they're thinking.
Yes.
You're just not aware of it. So you can't do anything about it.
Wow. That was for me very, very, very powerful, to hear what others think of you. Because you have one perception of yourself from your mirror, your own personal mirror, but then others see you with their natural eyes in a completely different light. And I'll tell you what they say about me. They say I'm stubborn. I don't feel stubborn, but I think when I stop for just a moment, there are things about which I stick to. And that's where I guess my stubbornness will show itself. So yeah, to have that blind spot and to be able to have that light shone on the blind spot helps. It's truly a gift to receive feedback. You also go on in chapter 1 to talk about the communication spectrum. I found that also very, very fascinating. Walk us through that spectrum.
Okay, so the spectrum I refer to covers from being submissive to being assertive to being aggressive. And let's put some definitions on that. And I will start with assertive, which is where, I encourage people to aim for. Someone who is being assertive expresses his or her opinions, thoughts, and feelings in a way that allows space for other people to do the same. So assertive, you're expressing yourself and you're leaving space for others to do the same. Contrast that with aggressive now. You're still expressing your thoughts, feelings, etc., but you're doing so in a way that doesn't leave any bandwidth for anyone else to similarly express themselves. So you're sucking up all the oxygen out of the air. What you say, it's as if it's handed down from heaven on tablets of stone. And so that's the end of the conversation. That's aggressive. Submissive, on the other hand, you don't express your thoughts, feelings, etc., but rather cater to those of others. So again, from submissive to assertive to aggressive. And there is some subjectivity in it, because you may think, oh, I'm being assertive, but someone else may say, but I don't feel comfortable expressing given how you're showing up. So here again, feedback is important, and being careful whether or not there's a blind spot and you're not showing up in the way that you intend to. And it's really important, and I emphasize it coaching clients all the time, you cannot see somebody's intent. So you can't know intent for sure. What you know is impact. So you may not have the intention to be aggressive, but if the impact is that the other people don't feel that they have the scope to express themselves, then that's their reality. You're showing up as being aggressive.
Yes, so true. And then the chapter ends, as each chapter would, with some self-reflection exercises. So folks, I really want you to get a copy of the book. You can go to Day's bookstore. You can go there and get a copy of the book. It's called Manager's First Aid Kit, Practical Guide to Remedy the 3 Most Common Managerial Challenges. It's there on your screen. That's what it looks like. Or you can go to Joan's website, which is utdsinc.com, utdsinc.com, and order your book from there, and Joan will have it delivered to you. Hint, hint. Or you can contact her yourself, and if you're somewhere across the world, you can go onto Amazon and you can order the book there as well, because the information inside is going to be very rich and very useful. And so next week we want to pick up from there, Joan, and continue on to the next chapter as we all together work towards creating a better working environment, creating a far more effective and productive working environment, which I know you're also passionate about. So as usual, thank you so much, Joan. I'll see you next week. God spare life. Thank you.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much. And
You're
be safe,
welcome.
Barbados, and everyone else as well.
You're welcome. Joan Underwood. Get the book today. Let's talk about it some more. We're coming back after this with our urologist.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We're 6 minutes away from 8 o'clock. We do have the doc on the line right now, our urologist, Dr. Paul Rouse. Good morning to you, Dr. Rouse.
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados. Thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. We're looking at those recurrent urinary tract infections. They're recurrent,
Yes,
so therefore it's a bother.
Yes, I wanted to bring this to the attention of the general public. Because urinary tract infections are fairly common, I think a lot of us might have experienced this at some point in time of our lives. We estimate that about 10 to 20% of the population will have a urinary tract infection during their lifetime. But I'm really concerned sometimes about recurrent urinary tract infections. So what we mean by recurrent urinary tract infections, this is when you have a water infection that doesn't necessarily settle with a course of antibiotics, or you have an infection this week and within the next couple of weeks you have another infection, another infection, another infection. So these are the ones I'm a little bit more worried about, the recurrent urinary tract infections. For most part, most infections can be dealt with by your GP, and there's nothing to be concerned about. You see your GP with the usual symptoms: burning when you pass your water, or pain when you pass your water, pain in the lower part of your tummy, going frequently, going urgently to pee. And remember that all important sign of seeing blood in your urine that you really always need to get investigated, can be managed by your GP in most cases, and that is fine. But what I'm concerned about is the recurrent urinary tract infections. So all too often, recently I had a patient who's been treated for recurrent urinary tract infections for several weeks, several months, and unfortunately had problems with the urinary tract. So as you see there in the cartoon, in the slide presentation, that recurrent urinary tract infections, when you have an infection, 2 or more infections within 6 months, or more than 3 infections within a year. In that case, that's a little sign for us in the medical field that something might be wrong with your urinary system, either from a functional point of view, in that there might be some problems in terms of how you're passing your water, or whether there might be actual physical or problem with the urinary tract in terms of blockage, or whether you have a kidney stone. And we always worried about having any tumors or so of the urinary tract. So when you have recurrent urinary tract infections, that's when we need to be concerned, because that is where, unfortunately, as a urologist, I would need to get involved, and or other medical professions, because simple problems like this, where we have problems with the urinary tract, whether it's a stone in the urinary system, whether it be obstruction of the urinary system, or whether there's a tumor of the urinary system, these really need to be dealt with surgically. So I really do ask that patients, if you notice that you're having a lot of problems with water infections, see your GP in first instance. I'm sure most of them can deal with the common problems, but when you have the complicated urinary tract infections, when there's a problem with the urinary system, that's when you need to be further investigated. And again, these can be instigated by your GP, namely an ultrasound scan or CT scan or simple X-ray. But probably ultrasound is probably the more common modality that we use initially to investigate the urinary system. If there's an abnormality on there, then we usually move to a more detailed scanning of the urinary system, namely CT scan. This is because we don't want to miss these abnormalities of the urinary system that really need to be dealt with surgically. And it's best you present early, as the good old-fashioned saying says, a stitch in time saves nine. If we catch stones early, we can remove them simply, no need for any major surgery. If there's blockage of the urinary system, we can deal with that quite urgent, safely for you. A lot of the times minimally invasive, or what we call endoscopic or keyhole surgery, and no need for any major operations. And similarly for small tumors and things like that. Unfortunately, if patients present quite late, when the stones are quite massive, or if there's prolonged obstruction of the urinary system, it could actually lead to kidney failure. And then again, if you have a massive tumor, then sometimes it's beyond surgical repair. And that's the stage I don't want to see patients. I want to see patients early, deal with it minimally invasive, get them back into their normal lives, back out to work, back out to enjoying their normal activities, without having to have any major surgery. I think that's the real message to hammer home today. Recurrent urinary tract infections, you need to see your GP, you need to have that investigation. And unfortunately, in some cases, you will need to come to see myself as a urologist or any of my other urology colleagues, but it is best to deal with this early rather than late. Because
in other words,
I fear all too often we see patients too late, and at that stage, it's very.
In other words, don't ignore the signs. Don't ignore the signs when they occur.
Do not ignore.
Just check your general practitioner, your general physician, or you can go to the urologist if you're referred to there. Indeed, don't ignore them. If you have 2 or more in a given short period, that's a problem. 3 or more within a 12-month period, that's a problem. So you go and you have it checked. Correct. Because we want to arrest it as quickly as possible for an easier life, easier living, much more pleasant. Indeed. Dr. Rouse, I'm going to leave it right there, but thank you as always for joining us in our surgery.
Thank you very much
and
for
sharing
me.
with us this. You're very
most
welcome.
Thank you.
Dr. Paul Rouse, our urologist this morning, with our doctor on the line. That's it for today, everybody. We thank you so much for joining us. The crew of Ruel Ford, Alicia Grant, and Christopher Blenman join me in saying good morning to you. Have a good day, everybody.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.